climate change means more than just hotter days. Extremes in weather can lead to health problems and affect food and water security.
Over the last 5 decades, temperatures in Africa have been rising twice as quickly as in the rest of the world. Over the next century, we expect to see some parts of the continent warm by 3 to 5 degrees, while it's predicted that in southern Africa we will see increases of 4 to 6 degrees. But this is only if we do nothing to stop the current rate of warming.
A future with climate change is often painted as post-apocalyptic. But that doesn't mean we will face entirely new problems, but that the existing ones will get worse.
What climate variability and change does, and that's why we call it this vulnerability resilience work, is climate just unveils what's been going on anyway. So often you've got issues around flooding, and that could be linked to bad planning, poor stormwater drain management. So it's not to say that the storm isn't there, the storm's happening, but often the consequences are linked to governance issues.
More flooding and extreme weather will mean more emergencies and an increase of disease. That's why experts want government to strengthen the health system so it can cope with any eventuality. They've also identified the South African towns which are the most vulnerable to temperature increases. And a study is now underway to determine how systems can be improved to deal with the health impacts of extreme weather.
At a town level, we're trying to find the weaknesses that need to be addressed to ensure that in a heat wave, people are protected. And we want to minimize, because we know that heat waves in general are followed a couple of days later by a spike in deaths, mainly amongst the elderly and amongst those with pre-existing conditions, and to some extent amongst children.
And when it's very cold, people burn fires indoors, meaning more exposure to dangerous smoke and increased cases of pneumonia. Early warning systems are also being developed to help hospitals prepare for influxes of potential cases up to 6 months in advance. Climate change will also threaten food security.
But ironically, agriculture is a major contributor to climate change. The sector is responsible for over a quarter of the world's greenhouse gas emissions, and over 2/3 of the water used by humans goes to watering crops.
Climate change will mean less water for farming, negatively affecting South Africa's staple maize crop, as well as animal reproduction. The Council for Scientific and Industrial Research is trying to find out which types of livestock are best suited to a hotter future.
I have a student at the moment who's working in Limpopo, and what he's doing is looking at chicken breeds, so looking at different chicken breeds, particularly indigenous chicken breeds, and trying to see which do better in higher temperatures. Do they produce better? Do they reproduce better? What's the laying like? What's the egg quality like? Effectively looking at what might be the opportunities and the constraints in terms of engaging in chicken production, both now and under climate change.
NASA estimates that between 1/3 and half of the planet's surface has been transformed by human development. In South Africa, much of our arable land is being used by agriculture. But what most people don't realize is that how we use our land can actually directly affect the weather.
In the Eastern Cape, research groups are looking at how loss of vegetation might affect the amount of rain in the area, and how restoring vegetation might bring it back.
Have we exacerbated the aridity in the Eastern Cape by taking out that vegetation? Can we bring more rainfall to that area by replanting speckboom and restoring that biodiversity?
Scientists are hoping the work they are doing now will immediately start making a difference in some people's lives. And as time goes on, more and more people will benefit from their work. Teresa Taylor, Johannesburg.